Good evening, Little Masters, and welcome to episode 193 of the Prancing Pony Podcast, where we almost feel like we like the forest.
Uncommonly kind of us, I must say. Well, folks, go ahead and pull up a bench in the common room. I'm Sean Marchese, the real-life Lord of the Mark, and I'm here with the Man of the West, who's gotten older and shabbier, together with his room, Alan Sisto.
Oh, very untidy. I can't imagine a spring cleaning, probably because I've never done one.
Nope. Wouldn't look forward to that myself.
Folks, today we are going to be talking about the first part of Treebeard, Chapter 4 in Book 3 of The Lord of the Rings. This is, of course, when Merry and Pippin meet one of the most intriguing characters in Middle-earth.
Now, for those of you joining us for the first time, welcome. Here at the Prancing Pony Podcast, we are working our way through J.R.R. Tolkien's legendarium, a few pages at a time.
We study the details, make connections to other writings, talk about our favorite themes.
And we have a lot of fun along the way. So we're glad you've joined us.
And we hope you'll be glad you joined as well. But before we get to tonight's chapter discussion, it's time for a segment we're already doing a lot this season, and you'll hear a lot more of over the coming years, thanks to interlacing. Meanwhile, elsewhere in Middle-earth.
All right, well, today in Middle-earth, it's February 29th. Now, that doesn't mean it was a leap year necessarily.
Yeah, wait till tomorrow when it's February 30th.
Right, exactly. Remember, every month has 30 days in the Shire calendar.
Yeah, they don't have to have that silly rhyme, do they?
No, they don't.
No.
But they do still have leap years, I noticed. I was looking through the appendix at that. They do still have leap years. Just I don't know how they keep track of when it's a leap year. Well, they have those extra days they insert in the middle. I digress.
We do. Right away.
Well, while the Rohirrim recover from the battle and bury their dead, bring out your dead, Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli continue their chase after Merry and Pippin.
And while we'll meet Treebeard tonight, along with our halfling friends, there are two other things happening in Middle-earth that we want to preview that we'll see next season. First, let's catch up with Frodo and Sam, trying to climb down a cliff face in heavy rain just before nightfall. "I should have been half drowned down there, or washed clean off," said Frodo. "What a piece of luck you had that rope." "Better luck if I'd thought of it sooner," said Sam. "Maybe you remember them putting the ropes in the boats as we started off, in the Elvish country. I took a fancy to it, and I stowed a coil in my pack. Years ago, it seems. It may be a help in many needs," he said. "Haldir or one of those folk. And he spoke right."
Sam can't tell the difference between one elf and another.
One of those folk, they all look the
Haldir
same.
or one of those folk, I don't know. They all look
One of them,
alike to me.
yeah. One of them tall people.
Oh, man.
"A pity I didn't think of bringing another length," said Frodo. "But I left the company in such a hurry and confusion." That is an understatement. I mean, I know we don't interrupt the text that often, but yeah, I think you did.
He had a good reason for it. Come on.
He did.
let's not
Oh,
be too
totally a
hard
good
on him.
reason. No. But it's just such an understatement to say, I left it in such a hurry and confusion.
Yeah.
I mean, there are times I leave the house in a hurry and confusion, but orcs aren't attacking.
Yeah, and
You know?
and there's not someone twice your size trying to steal a piece of jewelry from you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Thankfully, because there's nobody twice my size, but all right. "A pity I didn't think of bringing another length," said Frodo. "But I left the company in such a hurry and confusion. If only we had enough, we could use it to get down. How long is your rope, I wonder?" Sam paid it out slowly, measuring it with his arms. 5, 10, 20, 30 ells, more or less, he said. "Who'd have thought it?" Frodo exclaimed. "Ah, who would?" said Sam. "Elves are wonderful folk. It looks a bit thin, but it's tough, and soft as milk to the hand. Packs close, too, and as light as light. Wonderful folk, to be sure." And then later, the rope seemed to give him confidence, though he shut his eyes more than once when he looked down between his feet. There was one awkward spot, where there was no ledge, and the wall was sheer and even undercut for a short space. There, he slipped and swung out on the silver line, but Frodo lowered him slowly and steadily, and it was over at last. His chief fear had been that the rope length would give out while he was still high up, but there was still a good bite in Frodo's hands when Sam came to the bottom and called up, "I'm down." His voice came up clearly from below, but Frodo could not see him. His gray elven cloak had melted into the twilight. Frodo took rather more time to follow him. He had the rope about his waist, and it was fast above, and he had shortened it so that it would pull him up before he reached the ground. Still, he did not want to risk a fall, and he had not quite Sam's faith in this slender gray line. He found two places, all the same, where he had to trust wholly to it. Smooth surfaces where there was no hold even for his strong hobbit fingers, and the ledges were far apart. But at last he too was down. "Well," he cried, "we've done it. We've escaped from the Emyn Muil."
Ah, all well and good.
That's right.
But,
Bum, bum, bum.
dun, dun, dun. they were not alone. And I'm going to read a little bit more here. Gollum was getting lower now, and the hisses became sharper and clearer.
Where is it? Where is it, my precious, my precious? It's ours, it is, and we wants it. The thieves, the filthy little thieves. Where are they with my precious? Curse them! We hates them!
Doesn't sound as if he knew we were here, does it? Whispered Sam. And what's his precious? Does he mean the— Shh! Breathed Frodo. He's getting near now, near enough to hear a whisper. Indeed, Gollum had suddenly paused again, and his large head on its scrawny neck was lolling from side to side, as if he was listening. His pale eyes were half unlidded. Sam restrained himself, though his fingers were twitching. His eyes, filled with anger and disgust, were fixed on the wretched creature as he now began to move again, still whispering and hissing to himself. At last he was no more than a dozen feet from the ground, right above their heads. From that point there was a sheer drop, for the cliff was slightly undercut, and even Gollum could not find a hold of any kind. He seemed to be trying to twist round, so as to go legs first, when suddenly, with a shrill whistling shriek, he fell. As he did so, he curled his legs and arms up around him, like a spider whose descending thread is snapped. Sam was out of his hiding in a flash, and crossed the space between him and the cliff foot in a couple of leaps. Before Gollum could get up, he was on top of him, but he found Gollum more than he bargained for. I'll skip a bit here. Things would have gone ill with Sam if he had been alone. But Frodo sprang up and drew Sting from its sheath. With his left hand he drew back Gollum's head by his thin, lank hair, stretching his long neck, and forcing his pale, venomous eyes to stare up at the sky. "Let go! Gollum," he said, "this is Sting. You have seen it before once upon a time. Let go, or you'll feel it this time. I'll cut your throat." I can't wait for that moment. I know it's just less than a year away, but oh man.
I know. Hard to believe that, huh?
Yeah.
Later in that season, they meet Faramir, and he will then talk about something that happened on February 29th as well. So on February 29th, Faramir had a dreamlike vision while watching the shores of the Anduin near Osgiliath. He tells Frodo, "Then I saw, or it seemed that I saw, a boat floating on the water, glimmering gray, a small boat of a strange fashion with a high prow, and there was none to row or steer it. An awe fell on me, for a pale light was round it, but I rose and went to the bank, and began to walk out into the stream, for I was drawn towards it. Then the boat turned towards me, and stayed its pace, and floated slowly by within my hand's reach, yet I durst not handle it. It waded deep, as if it were heavily burdened, and it seemed to me, as it passed under my gaze, that it was almost filled with clear water, from which came the light, and lapped in the water a warrior lay asleep. A broken sword was on his knee. I saw many wounds on him. It was Boromir, my brother, dead. I knew his gear, his sword, his beloved face. One thing only I missed, his horn. One thing only I knew not, a fair belt, as it were of linked golden leaves about his waist. Boromir, I cried, where is thy horn? Whither goest thou? O Boromir! But he was gone. The boat turned into the stream, and passed glimmering on into the night. Dreamlike it was, and yet no dream, for there was no waking, and I do not doubt that he is dead, and has passed down the river to the sea.
Oh, man.
Oh, my heart.
Such a wonderful moment.
Oh, Faramir. Can't wait to meet him.
Absolutely. So yeah, we see this as a busy day in Middle-earth. Frodo and Sam escaping the Aemon Muil, only to be attacked by Gollum. Poor Faramir has a dream, not really a dream, in which he learns his beloved brother has died.
Yeah.
All while the Rohirrim are burying their war dead, and Aragorn, Gimli, and Legolas are continuing their ultra-long distance marathon.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
Quite a lot going on this very eventful day. But for now, why don't we go ahead and get back to this chapter, shall we? Alan?
Yeah, I think we need to go deeper and deeper into Fangorn as we begin chapter 4. And that's where I'm going to have you pick up at the very beginning. Because, of course,
it is a very good place to start. And what could possibly go wrong as we go deeper into Fangorn Forest?
I know, seriously. That's a good place to go. We all want to go there.
Yep. Meanwhile, the hobbits went with as much speed as the dark and tangled forest allowed, following the line of the running stream, westward and up towards the slopes of the mountains, deeper and deeper into Fangorn. Slowly, their fear of the orcs died away, and their pace slackened. A queer, stifling feeling came over them, as if the air were too thin or too scanty for breathing. At last, Merry halted. "We can't go on like this," he panted. "I want some air." "Let's have a drink at any rate," said Pippin. "I'm parched." He clambered onto a great tree root that wound down into the stream, and stooping, drew up some water in his cupped hands. It was clear and cold, and he took many draughts. Merry followed him. The water refreshed them and seemed to cheer their hearts. For a while they sat together on the brink of the stream, dabbling their sore feet and legs, and peering round at the trees that stood silently about them, rank upon rank, until they faded away into gray twilight in every direction.
What a scene.
Yeah.
So they do head deeper into Fangorn. Like you said, what could possibly go wrong here?
I mean, it's almost seeming like a little bit of Arcadia again here, isn't it? You get a little bit of this kind of this beauty of nature. They're kind of relaxing, enjoying themselves.
Yeah, you're right. And it is a beautiful setting. It's a peaceful setting. And I think we see that in their reaction. I love how they stop being afraid of the orcs. They slow down. There's a place for their fear to go away.
It's interesting, yeah, because, the text says that slowly their fear of the orcs died away, but it really seems to happen pretty quickly, doesn't it? I mean,
that's a good point. I mean, how far in are they? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in narrative time, it doesn't really take any time at all. We're seeing this change in them pretty quickly, so.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it weighs on them, like it's just like this terrible fear that's like crippling for paragraphs and paragraphs. It seems like,
which you'd think it would be, because they've just spent the last few days being dragged around by orcs.
Yeah,
being threatened, being tossed around like potato sacks, and being, having this terrible drink,
eating this horrible food,
oh.
Drinking this terrifying drink, terrible whiskey, whatever it was. Getting this horrible medicine smeared on your wounds. I mean, it's
fungus whiskey.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Something horrible. Something really bad.
Yeah.
So yeah, they do seem to get over it relatively quickly, but
yeah,
the air is kind of hard to breathe in here, isn't it? We get this idea that it's stifling.
Yes, that's the word that I'm thinking of. It's a little dense. There's this.
Yeah, you get a feeling of very dense tree growth, and I know exactly what this feels like. The air being hard to breathe. I imagine it's just like you
very
can't
close.
It's very close. You can't get like
there's
a
no
fresh
breeze.
breath of air. Yeah,
right. Yeah, the air is very still.
And Merry even says, "Look, I need some air, man. This is rough."
Yeah, this is difficult. And I'm sure maybe part of it is because they're climbing in elevation, they're in the foothills, but I don't think they're at the point where there's thin air yet. This isn't 10,000 feet, above sea level.
I think this is the forest more than
I think
the altitude.
Yeah. I agree. So they stop for a drink, and I love this moment, right? The water refreshes and cheers their hearts. Oh,
yeah.
It made me think of the moment that we saw in the last chapter when they stepped down onto the grass of Rohan after coming down from the Emyn Muil.
Yeah.
And their hearts rose at that point.
Yeah.
It's just what hobbits do. There's something about nature.
It's just like a bit of nature.
Yeah.
That they're able to kind of connect with.
Yeah. It's sort of their magic, right? In the prologue when, Tolkien explains that they're not really magic unless by magical you mean that, they're in touch with the earth.
And I wonder, do you think this is like a kind of a magical power going on here? Or is it's just a hobbitishness? Maybe just their connection to the earth?
Yeah, I don't know. It depends on the stream, right?
Yeah.
I think there might be something here. It's not refined like we might see in...
Well, we're about to see later in this chapter that certain water that they drink is going to have a very profound magical effect on them.
Yeah, and this is from that same source. This is the Ent wash, so
yeah,
maybe.
I don't know. I'm more inclined to think that this might just be a natural effect, just sort of connecting with nature a bit. But look, it is an enchanted place, so there very well could be some magic at work here.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, speaking of the stream, Pippin points out, look, we've got this stream that we can follow, so at least we're not lost.
That's true. We're not completely bewildered here. We can find our way out of the forest if we need to.
Bewildered, good word. We're going to come back to that later, aren't we?
Oh, we will. You're right.
Yeah. And, Mary's like, well, if we could breathe and if our legs worked, That would be great.
Well, yeah,
but
both those things are very useful, right?
yeah,
Which is why dabbling their sore feet and legs in the stream is also nice.
yeah.
So,
And then that's where you pick up, right?
yeah. I mean, not immediately after. We're skipping a paragraph because every so often we have to.
Yep.
Yes, it is all very dim and stuffy in here, said Pippin. It reminds me somehow of the old room in the great place of the Tooks away back in the Smiles at Tuckborough. A huge place where the furniture has never been moved or changed for generations. They say the old Took lived in it year after year, while he and the room got older and shabbier together, and it has never been changed since he died a century ago. And old Gerontius was my great-great-grandfather. That puts it back a bit. But that is nothing to the old feeling of this wood. Look at all those weeping, trailing beards and whiskers of lichen. And most of the trees seem to be half covered with ragged, dry leaves that have never fallen. Untidy. I can't imagine what spring would look like here if it ever comes. Still less a spring cleaning. But the sun at any rate must peep in sometimes, said Mary. It does not look or feel at all like Bilbo's description of Mirkwood. That was all dark and black and the home of dark black things. This is just dim and frightfully treeish. You can't imagine animals living here at all, or staying for long. No, nor hobbits, said Pippin, and I don't like the thought of trying to get through it either. Nothing to eat for 100 miles, I should guess. How are our supplies? Low, said Mary. We ran off with nothing but a couple of spare packets of lembas, and left everything else behind. They looked at what remained of the elven cakes. Broken fragments for about 5 meager days. That was all. And not a wrap or a blanket, said Mary. We shall be cold tonight, whichever way we go. Oh, poor guy.
Kind of a rude awakening for them.
Yeah, we are on our own, and all we have is all we have.
Right. We've escaped, but we've got nothing, man. We've got a little tiny bit of food, but that's about it.
That is about it.
Going back to the beginning of your reading, I love the fact that the first thing Pippin thinks of is Tuckborough.
Yeah.
And in the old Took's room, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How he and the room both got older and shabbier. I love that idea. It's like,
we all know somebody like that, right? A relative who's they probably got like a clear couch cushion, right? And they've got pictures that they haven't changed, and the pictures are yellow and faded, and everything's the same as it was 50 years ago in that room.
Yeah. It's almost like embalmed, which is kind of a grotesque image, a grotesque way to think of it. But it is like, people just get older. They can't let go of the past.
Right.
And this is more than 50 years. This has been, and I mean, you talked about, in our world, people doing this for 50 years, but Pippin's talking about something that was going on much longer than that.
Oh,
in
much
the old
longer.
Took's house, right? I mean,
the old Took lived to be 130 years old. So,
right.
And then, of course, now even after he's died, it hasn't changed.
It hasn't changed for 100 years.
100 years since then.
Right.
So we're talking about a room that may not have changed in 200 years. Yeah.
Right.
Mm.
But then he's actually talking about Fangorn.
Right. Which, that's nothing to this forest. 100
Right.
years, 200 years, that is nothing compared to Fangorn.
Yeah.
That's hasty, 200 years. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and we get this really vivid description of these beards and whiskers of lichen and these dead leaves that haven't fallen.
Yeah. And so, speculates, I can't even imagine what spring would look like here. I can't conceive of it. And certainly, does it even come? Mm-hmm, that made me just ever so briefly think of Narnia. I know this is a stretch. I'm just saying it made me think of that, right? Always winter, but never Christmas.
Oh, yeah. No, I think that makes sense.
Christmas never comes. So, does spring ever even come here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think there's a sort of a sense of stasis, both in, in Narnia and here, right? You're dealing with a place that's just, it's always the same season. At least that's what Pippin perceives here.
Yeah.
And Mary has a really interesting observation. He picks up on the fact that, although this place is dim, it's not really dark. It's different from the way Bilbo described Mirkwood.
Right. But he immediately thinks of that. A real dense forest that is dark in the sense that it lacks light, but it's not a presence of darkness like there was in Mirkwood.
Right, exactly. And he's talking, Mirkwood was dark and black and the home of dark black things. It was an evil place. Yeah. Fangorn doesn't feel evil, and that's significant, as we're going to see.
No, it's just very tree-ish, which that's an interesting adjective. I kind of get what he's saying, but only because I've read the rest of the book. But
I gather that it just feels very alien to him. He talks about, you can't imagine animals being here, right?
So maybe silent too. Really, really quiet.
Could be, yeah.
Or the only sound would be like, the wind through the leaves kind of thing.
Yeah. And maybe it feels eerily like no creature, no moving creature. Are trees creatures? I don't know. No animal or humanoid
Ents
creature.
and Huorn certainly are, but yeah,
True,
I don't know.
yeah.
That's a good question.
You know what I mean? Like, it just no creature that moves should be in this place. It's a place of trees and plants.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
There's got to be an alien feel to it.
There must be. Like, they don't belong. And
right,
really,
exactly.
They don't.
It's true.
Let's
they
be
don't.
Clear. No.
Yeah.
And they better figure out something quick, because as we reach the end of the passage, we discover that they have food, very bare rations of lembas to last them 5 days, but that's it. And they have no blankets.
Right.
So they're going to be cold. This is going to be a problem. So,
yeah.
Of course, when Merry spots sun coming through, and this is right after the passage I read and before the one you're going to read, he suggests that they go and investigate that opening. So
yeah,
might as well. Yeah.
Might as well. Can I just point out one really cool thing in that passage that we're not reading?
Sure.
You notice Mary refers to the sun as she?
Yes. And of course, capitalized as well. The sun, capital S. Yeah.
That's true. The sun with a capital S. And
now she has run out again.
She has run out again, or else she has climbed high enough to look down through some opening.
Yeah.
Remember Aryan all the way back in the Silmarillion. Remember also Germanic mythology, where the sun was female and the moon was male.
The moon was male.
Which is different for those of us who are used to like Greek mythology, where it's the other way around. But
that's correct.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool. Just a very subtle in-universe thing.
It is. And it's another one of those blink and you miss it moments. So thank you for pointing that out. And right after that is where I'm going to have you pick up.
All right. They found it was further than they thought. The ground was rising steeply still, and it was becoming increasingly stony. The light grew broader as they went on, and soon they saw that there was a rock wall before them, the side of a hill, or the abrupt end of some long route thrust out by the distant mountains. No trees grew on it, and the sun was falling full on its stony face. The twigs of the trees at its foot were stretched out stiff and still, as if reaching out to the warmth. Where all had looked so shabby and gray before, the wood now gleamed with rich browns, and with the smooth black grays of bark like polished leather. The boles of the trees glowed with a soft green like young grass. Early spring, or a fleeting vision of it, was about them. In the face of the stony wall there was something like a stair, natural perhaps, and made by the weathering and splitting of the rock, for it was rough and uneven. High up, almost level with the tops of forest trees, there was a shelf under a cliff. Nothing grew there but a few grasses and weeds at its edge, and one old stump of a tree with only 2 bent branches left. It looked almost like the figure of some gnarled old man, standing there, blinking in the morning light. "Up we go," said Mary joyfully. "Now for a breath of air and a sight of the land."
Always good to get your bearings.
Always.
So they do discover that the distance from where they were to that opening that they saw was a little more than they thought, huh?
Yeah, quite a bit further than they thought. And rising steeply still.
Yes.
Getting a little bit rockier. So it's not only farther, but it's also a bit tougher going than I think they imagined.
Yeah, definitely. But they also saw that the light was growing broader. It wasn't just kind of peeking through anymore. So that was nice. A little encouragement there. But then they reached that rock wall.
Yeah, so this is like the side of a hill, sort of the end of a mountain route, I guess you could say. And we get this very detailed description of, no trees, the sun on its face. It's got trees at its foot.
And then there's this change in the wood, too. Right now we get these rich browns and the bark, the smooth black gray. I love the description, like polished leather.
That's a really interesting description, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. That's really a smooth look.
So much more vivid and alive than it was a moment ago.
Yeah, it feels different.
It does. Earlier it's described as shabby and they can't imagine spring, but this is a vision of spring.
Right. Early spring or a fleeting vision of it was about them. You get the soft green of the boles of the trees. This is a beautiful place now. And then they reach that stair. And it's interesting, that the text gives us some hints, right? Natural, perhaps.
Yeah.
So, maybe since Ents are nature, you could call it both natural and manufactured. But,
maybe. Yeah, if they were to make something like this, it would look more natural, wouldn't it? Because they would use...
The way they rip stone apart is going to look like natural erosion, just happening over seconds
very
instead
quickly.
of years.
Right.
So, of course, the stairs lead to this shelf under a cliff with a view of the tops of the trees. But interestingly, there's nothing on this shelf. There's nothing growing. There's just some grasses and weeds, but no trees.
And a stump of a tree with 2 branches.
Right.
It looks like an old man standing there. And blinking, by the way.
Blinking in the morning light. Does a tree blink?
I've never seen a tree blink before. This might
Never
be your
seen.
first clue that this is more than a tree.
I think so.
But-
it looked almost like the figure of a gnarled old
Yeah.
man. Uh-huh. I get you.
Talk about blink and you miss it.
Oh, man, that's terrible. That is just
Thank you.
blink and you miss the blink. Oh.
And Mary does miss it.
He
Because
does.
he just, yay, let's go get a
Yeah.
little bit of fresh air. And a
I'm not
view
worried
from
about that
above.
tree that just blinked.
No. Blinking trees. Wait, why does the tree have eyes to blink? Can we talk
This is
about
a problem. This is a problem.
Why does it have eyes? All right.
We'll get to that soon enough. But I'm going to pick up.
I know
right
we're probably
after
going
that,
way
yeah.
too literal with this, but it's where it's going anyway. So
Well, it is
I'm
a
okay with
metaphor,
it.
but yeah, this may be a metaphor, but the tree has eyes too.
Exactly,
So,
right.
Let's just be honest. All right. So they climbed and scrambled up the rock. If the stair had been made, it was for bigger feet and longer legs than theirs. They were too eager to be surprised at the remarkable way in which the cuts and sores of their captivity had healed and their vigor had returned. They came at length to the edge of the shelf, almost at the feet of the old stump. Then they sprang up and turned round with their backs to the hill, breathing deep and looking out eastward. They saw that they had only come some 3 or 4 miles into the forest. The heads of the trees marched down the slopes towards the plain. There, near the fringe of the forest, tall spires of curling black smoke went up, wavering and floating towards them. "The wind's changing," said Mary. "It's turned east again. It feels cool up here." "Yes," said Pippin. "I'm afraid this is only a passing gleam, and it will all go gray again. What a pity! This shaggy old forest looks so different in the sunlight. I almost felt I liked the place."
Hold that thought, Pippin.
Yeah, that's right. Hold that thought. Oh, man.
So, yeah, I mean, we hinted at this a moment ago, but
Yeah.
we get this observation that the stair, if it was made,
If it was made. If, wink, wink. Yeah.
it was made for bigger feet and longer legs. This is a little bit unsubtle in the
It is
foreshadowing.
unsubtle, but at the same time, if it was made, of course it's going to be made for bigger feet and longer legs than the hobbits. which
That's true.
Probably
Honestly-
have the shortest legs of any of the...
Honestly, I imagine most stairs in Middle-earth were made for bigger feet.
I know, man,
longer
stairs
legs than
would be-
hobbits, yeah.
Of the ambulatory creatures, the hobbits are probably the
They
smaller
probably have
ones,
the
yes.
shortest legs.
Yeah, poor guys.
That's fair.
But you're right. It is very unsubtle foreshadowing. of
It's
that.
unsubtle because we know it's going to happen. But I mean, look, remember the first time you read this? Did you have
I
any
wish I
idea
could.
what you were about to see?
I wish I could. No.
It's
I don't
impossible.
think
No,
I
we
had a
can't
clue.
remember anymore because it's been so long. But because
Yeah.
we're both old. But
Shush.
it's, I mean, you know, for a first time reader, you have
Yeah.
no idea what's coming. It's only
No.
foreshadowing. It's only unsubtle, I should say, if you know what's coming.
That is a good point. You're absolutely right. Now, here's something that is subtle, but we kind of miss it here if we don't pay attention. The rapid healing and return of vigor.
Mm.
Is this due to the water that they drank? You know, you mentioned that you felt it was just maybe a natural thing, and we mentioned that maybe there was magic, but I've got to wonder, given the description of the Ent draft that they drink later and how it, again, talks about vigor and things like that, I wonder if this is just from drinking from the Ent wash, but maybe it's where they are. Maybe it's this hill or some other factor. I don't know. I mean, we'll have to come back to it for sure.
That's an interesting question. You might be right about this. We'll have to come back to it in a few episodes when we get to the end draft
Yeah,
in a bit more detail. But
that's a good point.
you might be right. I hadn't picked up on this, you know, how quickly they heal, but you're right. They do kind of, not
Magically,
just heal
cuts and
physically, but they kind of have
sores.
more will to go on, you know?
Yeah. I mean, the Ents could make a fortune bottling this up and selling it online.
Oh man, it would be like the ultimate like youth tonic.
Mm-hmm.
Old Treebeard's invigorating tonic.
Invigorating tonic.
But
If you-
he'd never sell any because the sales pitch would be so long.
You couldn't afford the ad.
Yeah, he'd be like the snake oil salesman at the carnival.
And taking a half an hour to get just something out. Yeah.
Step right up and
But don't be hasty.
my invigorating health.
I'm also picturing his agent talking to, whatever network is carrying the Super Bowl and asking him, No. We don't need a 30-second ad spot. Do you have a 30-minute ad spot?
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
It heals everything. Like, we got to go. Sorry, son. We got to get out of here.
Yeah, that's right.
We got to get to the market.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
Yeah.
so Merry and Pippin get to the top near this old stump.
Right.
That would be a very bad salesman. And looked east. And they've gotten 3 or 4 miles in here, haven't they?
That's not as far as I would have thought. I mean, what did we notice that earlier? I think we said that Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli were traveling at about 3 miles an hour. So this is maybe 2 hours of journeying.
Yeah,
into the
and it
forest?
says they'd only come 3 or 4 miles. So obviously we're meant to think that was not as far as they thought.
I mean, they're not going to be as fast as the 300s, and they are going over rougher ground.
This is rough terrain. Yep.
But at most, we can't imagine this taking more than 2 hours.
Right.
So, yeah, they are not too far in.
Yeah. And they're still able to see the smoke from the battlefield.
Oh, yeah.
We see
they're not far at all. So, and in such detail that Merry can observe the change in the direction of the wind from the way the smoke changes, right?
That's true, yeah.
And then Pippin confirms that, the weather's changing. It's going to be gray again. And that's a real shame because I almost like this place in the sun. So
don't worry, Pippin. Nobody's listening who's going to take offense to that.
Nobody will take offense to that at all. So now we are about to finally meet Treebeard, but first we wanted to remind you to visit our website, theprancingponypodcast.com.
Oh, yeah. All the good stuff is still there. Show notes, outtakes, Prancing Pony Ponderings.
Yeah.
We've also got a link to our online storefront where you can get PPP shirts, mugs, stickers, and more.
And one of the best resources we have is our library page. After all, we love the books here at the Prancing Pony Podcast, and we want to make sure you can get your hands on any of the books we mention here.
Yeah, we may talk about a lot of Tolkien-related stuff on the podcast, movies and art and all kinds of fun things. But at heart, Alan and I are fans of Tolkien's books and books about Tolkien. That's why we have the library page with links to every book we've mentioned on the show.
Now, we do make a few pennies from the purchases you make from those links, but we thank you for your support.
So look, when you use the bathroom, you always close the door behind you, right?
Well, unless you're an orc. Yeah.
Fair point. I mean, you don't want random passersby looking in on you.
No.
So why would you let people look in on you when you go online? Using the internet without ExpressVPN is like going to the bathroom and not closing the door.
Oh, that's disturbing. I mean, the truth is, it doesn't matter if you clear your history every 30 seconds. Your internet provider can still see every single website you've ever visited. And then they can sell that information too.
Yeah, but ExpressVPN puts a stop to this. It helps you keep it secret, keep it safe, by creating a secure, encrypted tunnel between your device and the internet so that your online activity can't be seen by anyone.
That's right. Now, I use ExpressVPN on all my devices. It works on everything. Phones, computers, get this, even routers, so that when people share my Wi-Fi, they can still be protected even if they don't have ExpressVPN.
And the best part is, using ExpressVPN is as easy as closing the bathroom door. Just fire up the app, click one button, and you're protected.
There is a reason why ExpressVPN is the world's #1 rated VPN by CNET, Wired, The Verge, and others.
So if you're like us and believe your online activity is your business, secure yourself by visiting expressvpn.com/PPP today.
So use our exclusive link, expressvpn.com/PPP, and you'll get an extra 3 months free. That's expressvpn.com/PPP. Now, while we don't want to be hasty, it is finally time to get around to meeting somebody, well, older than Sean and I combined.
That's really old.
That's getting scarily close to triple digits, actually, is what it is.
Oh, don't remind me.
I know.
Please don't remind me.
I know.
All right.
Sorry. All right. You go ahead and pick up here.
So after Pippin makes his unwittingly inappropriate remark,
yeah,
we get this response right away.
That's right.
Almost felt you liked the forest. That's good. That's uncommonly kind of you,
said a strange voice.
Turn round and let me have a look at your faces. I almost feel that I dislike you both. But do not let us be hasty. Turn around.
A large, knob-knuckled hand was laid on each of their shoulders, and they were twisted round, gently but irresistibly. Then 2 great arms lifted them up. They found that they were looking at a most extraordinary face. It belonged to a large, man-like, almost troll-like figure, at least 14 foot high, very sturdy, with a tall head and hardly any neck. Whether it was clad in stuff like green and gray bark, or whether that was its hide, was difficult to say. At any rate, the arms, at a short distance from the trunk, were not wrinkled, but covered with a brown, smooth skin. The large feet had 7 toes each. The lower part of the long face was covered with a sweeping gray beard, bushy, almost twiggy at the roots, thin and mossy at the ends. But at the moment the hobbits noted little but the eyes. The deep eyes were now surveying them, slow and solemn, but very penetrating. They were brown, shot with a green light.
What a description.
What an amazing description.
Yeah, and we'll get to that, and I want to do that, but I want to start with the greeting. Yeah, the fact that he acknowledges he almost dislikes them, but he doesn't want to be hasty. I almost feel like I dislike you both.
It's like, I think you're a jerk.
Turn around.
Yeah.
Turn around, bright eyes.
Every now and then,
That's exactly what I'm picturing him
I
singing it.
get a little bit terrified.
Oh my gosh.
Oh.
That is brilliant. I love it. We should, Treebeard sings the classics. We should do
Turn
that.
around, bright eyes.
Yeah, he's got bright eyes and he tells him to turn
He
around.
does, yeah.
Every now and then, I fall apart.
Oh my goodness, that's just terrible.
That is awful.
I love
It's
it.
absolutely awful. But yeah, and I love the description of everything about him is peculiar, right? That's like the only
Yes.
word for it. It's just,
Yeah.
it's a strange voice. This force that
Mm-hmm.
turns them around and lifts
Gently
them
but
up.
irresistibly.
It's
yeah.
described as gentle but irresistible. It's like, it's kind of a natural force, but
Yes.
it's not like they're being yanked up.
No.
It is a gentle force, but they can't do anything about it. It's
Nothing
it's
they can do.
inescapable.
It's so much stronger than,
Yeah.
than anything they could possibly resist.
Yeah. And then we just get the physical description. I mean,
I know.
now notice Tolkien doesn't come out and just say this is an anthropomorphic tree,
no.
but he describes it in such a way that the conclusion is unavoidable.
Well, it really is.
I mean, okay, just a moment ago he said it was a tree. It looked like a tree that was
Right.
blinking. Scary.
A tree, which don't normally have eyes, but it was blinking.
Right. But now he leans into all the anthropomorphic qualities. He describes it
Yeah.
as man-like. Do we want to get into the troll-like thing right now? I guess maybe we talk about this in a future episode, don't we?
I think we will. I think we will cover that.
Treebeard actually talks about it.
He does talk about that.
I won't get into it for now, but he will talk a little bit about why he's
Mhm.
troll-like. But yeah, I mean, you were saying he's at least 14 feet tall, so that's what is that in
huge.
metric? That's like
4.3 meters, I believe. Yeah.
Okay.
Makes Elendil look short. And we've already covered that he was over 8 foot tall.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Makes Thingol look short, I imagine.
Yeah.
Didn't we determine
certainly.
Thingol's like 10, 11 feet? Something crazy?
I think it was like close to 9,
Okay.
maybe. But I don't know about 11 feet. Maybe it was like 9'10" or 9'11".
Okay.
I don't know.
All right.
I don't remember for sure with him, but with Elendil, we could figure it out because they talked about that specific measurement. I don't remember the word. It started with an R. Ranga or something like that.
Yeah. Measurement. Yeah.
And in that segment, we actually learn how tall Elendil was. And that's also the segment where we're then able to apply that same mathematics to Aragorn and figure out that he was 6'4".
Right.
Oh no, with Aragorn, I think we found out he was 6'4" because actually Tolkien came out and said it in a letter.
I think you're right. Yeah. I think you're
Yeah,
right.
yeah. But no, with Treebeard, 14 feet. Yeah, he's going to be taller even than Thingol.
I mean, and that makes sense because he's a tree.
Yeah, he is a tree. That is right. Now I know it's around. It's Christmas time. You can go down and buy a tree, and the tree may not be taller than you. It's probably actually pretty hard to buy a 14-foot tree for Christmas.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But
it is.
most trees in an actual forest are going to be taller than you.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're told he's got a tall head,
Uh-huh.
virtually no neck. But again, Tolkien is really leaning into the human-like description. He really wants us to
Isn't he?
see this creature as, as
Mhm.
as human as possible, considering that he's wearing, maybe, or
I know.
I don't
Is
know
this
if he's-
his hide or is this his clothing?
Yeah.
And if it's his clothing, where does he shop? I'm kidding.
You gotta wonder.
But yeah, the hobbits couldn't tell. Is it dressed in bark or
Right.
is it hide bark?
Right.
And whatever the case, once you get a little bit away from the trunk, the arms are covered in this smooth brown skin.
Mm-hmm.
And then these massive feet. Of course, I mean, if you're 14 foot tall, you're
You're going to have
big
huge feet. Yeah.
or you're going to fall over a lot. I'm a
Yep.
little top heavy. But they each have 7 toes, which is interesting.
That is kind of cool. I mean, I'm just
Yeah.
imagining like this very complex root structure of toes
Right. Oh, yeah.
coming out from its foot.
Yeah. Very fascinating.
And then the beard. I love the description
Mhm.
of the beard. It goes from twiggy at the roots to mossy at the ends.
Oh, man. I just love that. What does he use for conditioner? That's the look I'm looking for right there.
He gets the really special beard oil.
Oh, yeah.
And then the eyes. We talked about the eyes before. Slow, solemn, penetrating, brown with this green light. I mean, the colors of nature, right? Brown and green.
Mhm.
It's so perfect.
It really is. It really is. And I know I wanted to read the whole passage, but we
I
couldn't.
know.
Pippin's description of the eyes is so beautiful. So please, if you've got the book, read that out loud. It's
Yeah.
worth it. The ages of memory, the long, slow thinking, this idea of an enormous well. It's so rich.
Yeah.
Beautiful
it is.
passage.
It's a bit of a frame narrative intrusion when you think about it.
You know what? You're right. Because way later, Pippin says this.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good point. It's very much a break.
Yeah. You can imagine like a later scribe, like writing this into the margins of the red
Yeah.
book somewhere.
That's a very good point. Oh, Pippin says this about the eyes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you're right.
He
It's
wrote
like an
this elsewhere.
annotation.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
But yeah, I mean, despite this, these ages of memory, there's
Mm. Mhm.
there's this idea of them being very present, right? Like a sun shimmering on
Oh,
the outer leaves of a vast tree. I promise I'll stop reading. But
it's okay. I just, we
No, I
try
know.
not to read everything.
Yeah.
It's hard. This is a chapter where I wanted to mark every word again, but
yeah,
truth is that's been the case since the very beginning of this show 5 years ago. So yeah.
yeah. And then this idea of, something that grew in the ground, going from asleep to having suddenly waked up.
Mm.
It's a really interesting description that I think foreshadows kind of what we're about to see with the Ents, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. Absolutely. And that is where I'm going to pick up,
Rom, home.
murmured the voice. A deep voice like a very deep woodwind instrument.
Very odd indeed. Do not be hasty, that is my motto. But if I had seen you before I heard your voices, I liked them. Nice little voices. They reminded me of something I cannot remember. If I had seen you before I heard you, I should have just trodden on you, taking you for little orcs, and found out my mistake afterwards.
When I was picking your flesh out between my 7 toes.
It's like, oops, these weren't orcs. Oh well.
Ooh, these aren't
I'll never
orcs.
find out what they were now.
Yeah, they're chunky salsa now.
Very odd you are indeed. Root and twig. Very odd.
Pippin, though still amazed, no longer felt afraid. Under those eyes he felt a curious suspense, but not fear. "Please," he said, "who are you? And what are you?" A queer look came into the old eyes, a kind of wariness. The deep wells were covered over.
Now.
Answered the voice.
Well, I'm an Ent. Oh, that's what they call me. Yes, Ent is the word. The Ent I am, you might say, in your manner of speaking. Fangorn is my name, according to some. Treebeard, others make it. Treebeard will do.
"An Ent?" said Mary. What's that? But what do you call yourself? What's your real name?
Who now?
Replied Treebeard.
Oh, now that would be telling. Not so hasty. And I am doing the asking. You are in my country. What are you, I wonder? I cannot place you. You do not seem to come in the old lists that I learned when I was young. But that was a long, long time ago, and they may have made new lists.
Well, yeah, it's been a few thousand years, Treebeard. I'm probably
There have been
sure they made it.
at least a few new lists made in
Probably.
those thousands of years, but hey.
Yeah. Maybe they're new lists.
I'm so glad we both finally get to do our Treebeard voices.
It's so much fun. I'm looking forward to the next month. Yeah.
Because it is such a fun voice to do, and
It is so much character.
It does have so much character, and we get a description of it. It's one of the few voices we get a description of what it sounds like. It sounds like a very deep woodwind. Now, do you have some audio on that for us?
I do. When I read that, I thought, well, what's the deepest one? And my first thought was there's, the bassoon, but I thought there's got to be something deeper. Well, sure enough, there's a contrabassoon, and I've actually pulled a sample here. Wow. That is deep.
Wow. Well, I can't go that deep.
No, I can't either. I'm hearing my headphones sort of rattle. That sounded like nearing that 20 hertz margin. It's deep.
That is deep.
But that's what it's supposed to sound like, and you kind of hear that. That woodwind flavor. Yeah,
you can totally. You can totally imagine that.
Yeah,
as you're reading this.
Absolutely. Now, the voice itself was modeled after somebody, as I'm sure most of you know already from times that we've talked about it.
Yes.
Carpenter's biography tells us that Tolkien told his friend Neville Coghill that he modeled Treebeard's manner of speaking from room on the booming voice of C.S. Lewis.
There you go. Yeah. That is one of those awesome fun facts.
I love that.
And of course, we all know Treebeard's motto, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
Do not be hasty.
Yeah.
And it's a good thing, because otherwise he would have just stepped on them and turned them into chunky salsa.
Squishy squish. Yeah.
Yep.
Sometimes we get on Treebeard later on for not being hasty enough, right?
Yeah.
Certainly Pippin does, but it's a good thing here.
Have you noticed how many people keep mistaking the hobbits for orcs? What is that about?
Well, we know that most orcs are smaller height, right?
True.
I mean, don't remember that passage when we're talking about the captain in the orcs that when they're leaving Moria?
Yeah.
And the captain is almost man high.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
And you realize, oh, that's right. So the rest of them are really pretty short.
Yeah, that
only
makes
the
sense.
extraordinary are almost man high, maybe 5'4", 5'6", something like that.
Okay. Yeah, that probably explains it.
Yeah, I think so. And they just don't have any experience with smaller
Hobbits,
creatures that aren't obviously dwarves.
Right.
Big, stocky, bearded creatures.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah. So indeed, Treebeard says they're very odd. And I love this phrase, root and twig, very odd.
That is pretty cool. I like that.
It's such a great, it's exactly the sort of exclamation you'd expect from a tree.
Yeah.
But I have to say, it almost wasn't to be. In The Treason of Isengard, Christopher Tolkien points out that instead of trotting on them, thinking that they're orcs, Treebeard exclaimed, "Crack my timbers," which probably not. I mean,
it sounds a bit more like Popeye or something, like.
Right. But it also very self-damaging, right?
True. Yeah.
So, and according to the footnote for that note, we have Charles Williams to thank for Tolkien changing it as he queried J.R.R. about the use of that phrase, which led to the change.
Oh, about the use of crack my timbers.
Crack my timbers. He was like, I don't think crack my timbers works.
I mean, it basically means what shiver me timbers means, in pirates.
Yeah. Shiver me timbers, which is terrible.
It wouldn't quite work.
Arr, it's too pirate. Maybe we should, it's too late because it's in September, but there's a National Talk Like a Pirate Day. Maybe we should do an entire episode in that.
Maybe not.
No, we shouldn't do a whole episode as pirates.
We should do.
Welcome to the Prancing Pony podcast.
Yarr, we be here with some good Tolkien for ye mateys.
Yeah, that's right. And a cup of,
a bottle of rum for ye.
Rum. It's just rum because we can't We can't have anything brewed. We can only have the distilled.
But we've got no rules here because we've only got guidelines.
Where is all the rum gone? Anyway, yeah, we are not going to do an episode as pirates. That's
you got the Jack Sparrow in at the end, didn't you? Where's the rum gone? I can't do Johnny Depp, but yeah, you did it pretty well.
I can't do him, but I can do that line.
Yeah. Where's the rum gone?
Where's all the rum gone? So Charles Williams, thank you for keeping Tolkien away from, crack my timbers.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
And so Pippin's not afraid anymore.
Mm-hmm.
He's in suspense, but he's not afraid.
Yeah, I love that distinction.
Kind of asks the obvious questions. Okay, who are you and what are you?
Who are you?
Getting all the classic rock references.
I know. This is one of those days, huh? Yeah.
And notice Treebeard's reaction to this. His eyes change. He has this wariness. He gets very
He shuts down the wells of his eyes. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm.
Very protective of his identity.
For good reason. Yeah.
And what does he say?
Now, he does tell them a little bit. I am an Ent. In fact, I'm really the Ent. It's not self-aggrandizing, really. It sounds like it, but it's not.
I'm the Ent.
I'm the Ent. I am the... We know what it means when you add the definite article.
Right. Well, that's what I'm wondering. Like, why is he the Ent? 'Cause it's not like the hill or the shire, because when, we talked about those before, and like, it's called the hill in Hobbiton because there's only one hill that anybody cares about. It's called the shire because it's the only one of any significance. That's not why he's
Well, it's the only shire. Yeah. Right.
Well, that's true. Yeah. That's not.
No,
that's not why he's the Ent, right? I mean, why is he the Ent? And I wonder if it has something to do with his name. And
yeah, I think so. I mean, what is his name? It is Fangorn, which literally means Treebeard, right?
Right. Yeah. Cinderin. So Fang means beard and Orn is tree. So yeah, Fangorn, Treebeard.
Literally.
So yeah, I mean, he is the guy that this whole forest is named after, and he seems to be really the first Ent that Tolkien created, isn't he?
Mm-hmm. Quite. Yeah. In fact, let's talk about Tolkien's creation of the Ents in general. A little bit of sidebar here. In 1955, Tolkien wrote a letter to W.H. Auden answering several questions arising from the book. Now, the letter is 163, but we're actually going to be reading from a lengthy footnote to that letter. Tolkien says of the Ents, I did not consciously invent them at all. The chapter called Treebeard, from Treebeard's first remark on page 66, was written off more or less as it stands, with an effect on myself, except for labor pains, almost like reading someone else's work. And I like Ents now because they do not seem to have anything to do with me. I dare say something had been going on in the unconscious for some time, and that accounts for my feeling throughout, especially when stuck, that I was not inventing, but reporting imperfectly, and had at times to wait until what really happened came through. But looking back analytically, I should say that Ents are composed of philology, literature, and life. They owe their name to the Eld Ente Yewerk of Anglo-Saxon, and their connection with stone. Their part in the story is due, I think, to my bitter disappointment and disgust from school days, with the shabby use made in Shakespeare of the coming of the great Birnam Wood to high Dunsinane Hill. I longed to devise a setting in which the trees might really march to war. And into this has crept a mere piece of experience, the difference of the male and female attitude to wild things, the difference between unpossessive love and gardening. Which we'll get to later when he talks about the Ents.
Yes, we will.
Of course. Yeah.
And also, I have to add, take that, Shakespeare.
Yeah, I know, man.
Only Tolkien can get away with thumbing his nose at Shakespeare.
Yeah, there aren't many people who, frankly, have the chops to criticize Shakespeare.
No, and I love Shakespeare, but I get what he's saying. I mean, as a kid, you're hearing about. I mean, for people who don't know Macbeth, probably should go read it or see a production of it. But yeah, I mean, you read that and you're like, oh, this is going to be really cool. And then when you find out what it is, it's like, really? Okay. All right.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe we'll get into that in a P5.
That would be fun.
But moving on, I do want to say a little bit more here about some of Tolkien's commentary on the Ents. In a draft for a letter that he wrote to a Colonel Worsket in 1963, and this is published as letter number 247, Tolkien echoes the unconscious nature of his creation of the Ents, but he shines a bit more light on them. He says, there are or were no Ents in the older stories, because the Ents, in fact, only presented themselves to my sight, without premeditation or any previous conscious knowledge, when I came to Chapter 4 of Book 3. But since Treebeard shows knowledge of the drowned land of Beleriand, west of the mountains of Lune, in which the main action of the war against Morgoth took place, they will have to come in. But as the war in Beleriand was at the time of the hobbits' meeting some 7,000 years ago, no doubt they were not quite the same. Less wise, less strong, shyer and more uncommunicable. Their own language simpler, but their knowledge of other tongues very small. According to Carpenter, there was a note in pencil at the top of this letter draft where Tolkien added, "No one knew whence they, Ents, came, or first appeared. The High Elves said that the Valar did not mention them in the music, but some, Galadriel, were of the opinion that when Yavanna discovered the mercy of Eru to Aule in the matter of the dwarves, she besought Eru, through Manwë, asking him to give life to things made of living things, not stone, and that the Ents were either souls sent to inhabit trees, or else that slowly took the likeness of trees, owing to their inborn love of trees. Not all were good." And then there's some illegible words there.
Mm-hmm.
"The Ents thus had mastery over stone. The males were devoted to Orome, but the wives to Yavanna."
Wow, that's a neat little tidbit there at the end.
Yeah.
Now, of course, Tolkien would later create a finished text regarding the origin of the Ents, and that's what Christopher Tolkien included in the Silmarillion in one of my favorite chapters of Aule and Yavanna.
Yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So getting back to the text, Mary wants to know, okay, well, what's an Ent? And, well, what's your real name? Okay, people call you Treebeard, call you Fangorn, but what's your real name?
Right.
And Treebeard's got a really great response here.
Yeah, I'm doing the asking since you're in my
Yeah.
country, and since I'm, 4 times as tall as you and have you in my hands.
And I can crush you in my
I can-
tree-like hands.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you, what are you? Because you're not on any of the lists. I have lists, folks, a ton of lists, and you're not on them.
He's a list maker.
He is.
And he's going to read them one of his lists or sing them one of his lists.
Yes, he will.
And I'll pick up there.
All right. Sounds good.
Learn now the lore of living creatures. First name the 4, the free peoples. Eldest of all the elf children. Dwarf the delver, dark are his houses. Ent the earthborn, old as mountains. Man the mortal, master of horses.
Beaver the builder, buck the leaper, bear bee hunter, boar the fighter, hound is hungry, hare is fearful. Yes, eagle in eyrie, ox in pasture, hart horn crowned, hawk is swiftest, swan the whitest, serpent coldest. How'd you go? Rum-tum. It was a long list. But anyway, you do not seem to fit in anywhere.
Man, Professor, don't be so hasty.
Oh, seriously, slow it
fast
down,
with
man.
that reading. I know all of his readings are fast, but that one,
That was really,
I mean, I love it, of course.
I
but
do.
I feel like I was going way too slow now.
I know. No,
I'm just
feel
trying to be an Ent.
slow. I know. I love the way he did it all sing-songy though.
It is
room
great.
Toom, room to toom. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, now I'm going to pick up again after that. "We always seem to have got left out of the old lists and the old stories," said Mary. "Yet we've been about for quite a long time. We're hobbits." "Why not make a new line?" said Pippin. "Half-grown hobbits, the hole-dwellers. Put us in amongst the 4, next to man, the big people, and you've got it,"
Not bad,
said Treebeard.
that would do. So you live in holes, eh? It sounds very right and proper.
There you go. Sounds very right and proper to have you
Indeed
be
it
called
does.
hobbits if you live in holes.
In holes.
Because you'd be holbittla, which means hole builders.
That's well,
right.
Don't get ahead of ourselves. Come on, you're spoiling later in the season.
Sorry. All right.
All right, I want to go back and talk a little bit about the poem structure.
Yeah, we should do that.
Point out that we've got alliterative lines here,
Mm-hmm.
and it's sort of Anglo-Saxon in its structure with the alliteration and the use of half lines. So you can really break each line down into half lines with 2 alliterating syllables in the first line and then a third in the second half line. So you've got
Right.
learn, lore, and then living, first, for, and then free, and so on, all the way down through all the animals and heart, horn, hawk.
Mm-hmm.
It goes through the entire poem. The only exception being the last line, which is interesting. Swan, whitest. You would expect an S there.
Yeah.
And then serpent. I don't think there's anything significant about the change in the last line, but it is, and it's not really the last line of the poem. We're to believe that the poem goes on longer than that.
That's true.
But for whatever reason, it doesn't.
I wonder if there's more of an emphasis on the w part of swan.
Swan, the white is...
white. But then you don't have the third.
That might make sense, but then you've got serpent in the next half line. So
as opposed to a warpent.
Yeah.
Warpent.
Oh, those warpents.
Oh, those silly warpents. So we get the 4 free peoples at the top, right? I mean, that's the thing. That's where this thing starts.
Is that the first time we've seen this term, free peoples?
It is. I believe it is the very first time we've seen the phrase free peoples. I know that for those of you who came to these books through the movies, for instance, you get that phrase in the introduction, in the prologue.
Right.
But I have just done a word search, and it's actually not the first. It is the second time.
Okay, when was the first?
In The Ring Goes South, Elrond says that for the rest, they shall represent the other free peoples of the world.
Oh, okay.
Elves, dwarves, and men.
All right.
So our hunch was wrong, but close. Yeah.
I remember Elrond having a line like that in the movie, too. I think when...
Yes.
I think it's the same part. I think when he's bidding them goodbye, he says, like, may the blessings of elves and men and all free people go with you. Or something.
Yeah.
It's just an interesting term. I mean,
it is.
It's clear enough. It's the people who are not enslaved by Sauron.
Right, right.
So that makes sense.
And yet some men are, as we know. And even some
true.
dwarves have served him before. But, yeah.
That is true.
So let's discuss the order that they're in. Eldest of all the elf children. Now, we know they're not the eldest in terms of creation. We know that Aule actually made the dwarves before the elves were made. But this seems to be in the order of waking.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because the elves woke before the dwarves, right? Aule, the Iluvatar put the dwarves to sleep, and they had to sleep until after the elves came. And then the dwarves came, and then the Ents, and then the men. It's a very interesting order.
Right. And it's interesting that Ents come after dwarves because, as we know from of Aule and Yavanna in the Silmarillion, and as we talked about a little bit ago in the sidebar, the creation of the Ents was partly a response to the creation of the dwarves.
Right.
Yavanna wanted some creatures to protect her creations, her trees, to protect them against the dwarves in large part. So that's very interesting that they do come after dwarves.
It is interesting that the Ents come after. I can only think that it has to do with when they woke up.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that makes perfect sense. And of course we know man was last.
Well, right. We're always last. We're the aftercomers, the sickly,
we're all
those
terrible
names.
things.
Yeah.
Master of Horses is an interesting one. Why do you think this is the trait that Treebeard notices? I mean, okay, mortality, we know mortality. That's what we're known for, right?
Man, the mortal, right.
Yeah. But why do you think Treebeard notices Master of Horses?
That's the thing. I mean, your first thought is, well, it's got to be because they're so close to Rohan, so they see these horse riders all the time. But isn't this a really, really old list?
That's the thing. Yeah, this is really old. This is much older than the presence of the Rohirrim in Kalinarthon. So
it's older than one would presume the presence of the Númenóreans in Gondor.
Probably. Yeah. So I don't know. I'm not aware of any reason why men would be more associated with horses than elves in Middle Earth. I mean, we know
not that I can think of.
We know the Noldor had horses. It wasn't like it was just men that had domesticated horses. So I'm a little bit puzzled by this. I'm curious if people have thoughts on it.
Yeah, I wasn't able to find anything on that.
Yeah,
but
me either.
Maybe somebody will. But then we get the animals.
Yeah, then we get into the list of animals. And I've got to give a hat tip to Hammond and Skull here because they make a connection between this passage of this poem and, I am probably going to destroy this, but the Skald Skaparmal in Snorri Sturluson's Edda. So pretty cool connection there.
Fair enough. I mean, I'm sure we didn't get the emphasis on the right syllables, but
probably
it's
not
recognizable.
But we tried.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, hobbits don't seem to fit in anywhere. They're not among the free
they're
peoples. They don't seem to be animals. So where do they go?
Yeah, where do they go? And Mary points out, look, the hobbits aren't in a lot of the old stories, and we know they're not in the Silmarillion, which is the oldest story we've got.
They've got one half sentence. Come on, give them.
Well, in
Otrapada,
in Otrapada,
not in the Quenta Silmarillion,
not in the Quenta.
Yeah,
that's true. Otrapada, by the way, is an acronym
yes.
for Of the Rings of Power in the Third Age. We've
so
rightly
bad
been called
about
on
that.
the fact that sometimes we say Otrapada or Spabimi and we forget to spell it out.
Yeah. Sorry, we're bad about that.
Sorry.
And Pippin suggests a new line. Half-grown hobbits, the hole dwellers.
I love how he picked up on the alliteration pattern.
He did.
And then adapted it.
He did pick up on the alliteration pattern. And yes, and I'm remembering, what I was going to say was actually, I'm remembering Corey Olsen's observation in exploring J.R.R. Tolkien's The Hobbit, that when Bilbo was composing verses in The Hobbit, this was a Tookish trait.
Oh, yeah.
So here we've got
right.
Pippin being a little bit Tookish and composing a little bit of verse on the fly here.
As he should. Yeah,
Pippin seems
I like
to be
that.
coming into his own Tookishness here. So Treebeard, okay, that's interesting, but who calls you hobbits? That certainly isn't an elvish sounding name. And
right. It doesn't sound like any of our words.
Right. And elves are the ones who made all the old words. They're the ones who began language after all.
Right. So Pippin answers the question. Well, we call ourselves that, which is quite the shock to Treebeard.
Right.
That is too hasty. You shouldn't be doing that. You're going to end up telling folk your names.
Right. Don't do that.
Watch out.
Don't do that. And remember the importance of real names. Again, going back to The Hobbit, between Bilbo and Smaug, remember this passage. This, of course, is the way to talk to dragons, if you don't want to reveal your proper name, which is wise, and don't want to infuriate them by a flat refusal, which is also very wise.
Yes, it is. That's true. And the whole thing about names made me think of Turin. Back when he got mad at Gwyndor, after Gwyndor had told Finduilas who Turin really was. In love I hold you for rescue and safekeeping. But now you have done ill to me, friend, to betray my right name and call my doom upon me, from which I would lie hid.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's definitely some places in Tolkien's writing where real names have power, and that seems to be what Treebeard is concerned about here. Like, why would you do that?
Yeah.
Don't reveal your true name.
No.
And I also have to give a shout out. I know a lot of our listeners are fans of Ursula K. Le Guin's Earthsea series.
Oh, yeah.
And in that, magic is actually based on the true names of things and people in the old speech. That's a world where people don't even reveal their true names to anybody except people they really trust. Because if you know somebody's real name, you have power over them. And I know that Le Guin was a Tolkien fan. I don't have any specifics on that. Maybe we'll have to look into that for a P5.
That'd be fun.
But yeah, I'm reminded of that too. So yeah, names have power. And it makes sense for a philologist to write that.
Boy, it does, doesn't it? I hadn't even thought about it from that perspective, but yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so, after Treebeard says you really shouldn't do that, you need to be more careful. Well, Mary has a response. We aren't careful about that, said Mary. As a matter of fact, I'm a Brandybuck. Meriadoc Brandybuck, though most people call me just Mary. And I'm a Took, Peregrine Took, but I'm generally called Pippin, or even Pip.
But you are hasty folk, I see,
said Treebeard.
I'm honored by your confidence, but you should not be too free all at once. There are Ents and Ents, Or there are Ents and things that look like Ents but ain't, as you might say. I'll call you Mary and Pippin, if you please. Nice names. For I am not going to tell you my name, not yet at any rate.
A queer, half-knowing, half-humorous look came with a green flicker into his eyes.
For one thing, it would take a long while. My name is growing all the time, and I've lived a very long time. So my name is like a story. Real names tell you the story of the things they belong to, in my language. In the old Entish, as you might say. It is a lovely language, but it takes a very long time to say anything in it, because we do not say anything in it, unless it is worth taking a long time to say and to listen to.
And yes, I drew that last bit out on purpose because it made sense. Yes,
it does. And that is also going to be our excuse for going really long in this episode. If we do.
Or in the next 5
and
episodes
the next
for that
4
matter.
episodes after this.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, after all that talk about names having power, Mary's like, look, we're not careful about our names.
No.
I'll tell you who I am. I'm Mary Adoc Brandybuck. Or
here's my social security number. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Here's the key to my house. Yeah.
Photocopy of my driver's license. Yeah.
And Pippin, hey, I'm Peregrine Took, or Pippin, or even Pip.
That's right. He shortens it down even
He
more.
shortens it to Pip. We don't see that a lot, but we do see it a couple times in the book.
That's true. A couple times. And Treebeard, wow, yep, I was right. You're really, really hasty. You might want to keep that info to yourself because there are Ents and then there are Ents. Or as he puts it in that, clever way, they're Ents but ain't. I like it as there's Ents but pseudo Ents.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just thinking there are Ents and ankles.
Oh no.
Something like
ankles. That's terrible.
That is awful. I know. I love the bit about things that look like Ents but ain't. I love the pun, Ents but ain't.
Pun.
That's awesome.
Ents but ain't. It's great. I do love that. Yeah.
But you know what? Okay, fine. You gave me your social security number, but I'm honest. I'm not going to do anything with it.
Right.
I'll just call you Mary and Pippin.
That's fine. Easy enough. But I'm not going to tell you my name. I'm glad you trust me, but I'm not sure I trust you. And even if I trusted you, I couldn't tell you my name because you might be dead by the time I finished it.
Right.
It would take a very long time.
Yeah. And I love this idea that Entish names tell you the story of the thing they belong to. We talked about this in a recent Questions After Nightfall. Was it?
Yes, we did.
I don't recall if it was the last one or the one before that. I think it was the last one.
I think it was just the most recent one because it was this season.
I think it was, yeah.
Oh, but we have recorded 2 this season.
We have recorded 2, but I do think this was in the most recent one.
Yeah, I think so.
But I can't remember, to be honest. It could have been the one before. But yeah, we did talk about this. I love this idea that Entish names tell you the story. They're growing all the time.
Yeah, because it was about Burarum, and we started digging into the hill thing, which we're going to talk about here in a little bit.
Yeah.
It is a lovely language, he says, but it does take a long time to say anything in it. So even we don't use our own language.
Right.
Unless there's something very important to say.
Right.
Yeah.
Fortunately.
Yeah. Yeah. Otherwise,
it'll be a lot longer.
Even longer. So, speaking of longer, we still have some more to go, and I'm going to have you start exactly where I left off.
Okay.
But now.
And the eyes became very bright and present, seeming to grow smaller and almost sharp.
What is going on? What are you doing in it all? I can see and hear, and smell, and feel a great deal from this, Alalalalalarumba Kamanda Lindo Burume. Excuse me, that is a part of my name for it. I do not know what the word is in the outside languages. You know, the thing we are on, when I stand and look out on fine mornings and think about the sun and the grass beyond the wood and the horses and the clouds and the unfolding of the world. What is going on? What is Gandalf up to? And these Burarum.
He made a deep rumbling noise like a discord on a great organ.
These Orcs and young Saruman down at Isengard. I like news, but not too quick now.
There is quite a lot going on, said Mary. And even if we tried to be quick, it would take a long time to tell. But you told us not to be hasty. Ought we to tell you anything so soon? Would you think it rude if we asked what you were going to do with us, and which side you were on? And did you know Gandalf?
Yes, I do know him. The only wizard that really cares about trees,
said Treebeard.
Do you know him?
Yes, said Pippin sadly. We did. He was a great friend, and he was our guide.
Then I can answer your other questions.
And then I'm going to have you stop right there because even though the rest of that is great, we can't, again, read everything because it would take us forever. So Treebeard's eyes become bright and present at the beginning of your passage. But now, right, he's talked a little bit about the name thing and the old Entish language. Mm-hmm. But now he wants to know the news, and he's very aware now, very suddenly aware. So he asks what the hobbits are doing and what's going on.
Yeah. And he says, look, I get a little bit of news from this thing that I call, and I love this name for the hill. I actually want to do a quick sidebar on the Entish language here, and this comes to us from Appendix F to Lord of the Rings. So in that appendix, first we learn that the elves didn't teach the Ents their language, as we might have guessed from some of the things we've read already.
Right.
Rather, the Ents ascribed their desire for speech to the elves.
Yeah.
The elves sort of made them want to speak, but then they made their own language, and according to Tolkien, it was unlike all others, slow, sonorous, agglomerated, repetitive, indeed long-winded, formed of a multiplicity of vowel shades and distinctions of tone and quality, which even the lore masters of the Eldar had not attempted to represent in writing.
Oh my.
They used it only among themselves, but they had no need to keep it secret, for no others could learn it.
Well, there's your answer to keeping a secret language, dwarves. Make it so hard nobody else can do it.
Yeah, exactly.
But of course, the Ents could learn other languages easily, Tolkien said, adding that they picked them up swiftly and never forgot them. He goes on to say that the Ents preferred the languages of the Eldar and loved best the ancient High Elven tongue. The strange words and names that the hobbits record as used by Treebeard and other Ents are thus Elvish, or fragments of elf speech strung together in Ent fashion. Some are Quenya, as Taurla Lomea Tumbala Morna Tumbala Tauria Lomeanor, which may be rendered forest many-shadowed, deep valley black, deep valley forested, gloomy land. Which
I love that.
I love that.
That's
That
awesome.
I swear, if I ever I want to own a property and call it that. Forest many-shadowed, deep valley black, deep valley forested.
I'd be
gloomy
happy
land.
with just deep valley forested gloomy land.
Yeah, you know what? I think so. Maybe that should be the name of the homeowners association, the tract that I'll develop.
Yeah, exactly.
Welcome to the deep valley forested gloomy land tract.
Yep.
Okay. And by which Treebeard meant, more or less, there is a black shadow in the deep dales of the forest. So
That's fascinating. That, the Quenya is literally rendered as just a bunch of adjectives and nouns. But
yeah, all together in a single word too.
Right.
Like, what you're not seeing as I read that is forest many shadowed is a word. Deep valley black.
Deep
is
valley
a
black
word.
is a word. Deep
Valley
valley
forested. Yeah. Yeah.
And then Treebeard actually means a sentence with syntax, with a subject and a verb and
Right.
and an object.
An actual structure. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool.
I also like Gloomy Land. That is Walt's first and failed name for Disneyland.
It wasn't nearly as successful.
Focus groups did not like Gloomy Land. They said no.
But
we
you
need
know
to
who
name
did like
something
it?
else.
Eeyore.
Eeyore loved Gloomy
Eeyore
Land.
liked
You're right. That's true.
I guess I'll just sit here alone.
In Gloomy Land. So Tolkien goes on in this quote to say, after he said some are Quenya like that one, and some are Sindarin, as Fangorn, beard of tree, or Fimbrithil, slender beach.
Right. But despite that, we do get one attempt at actual Entish in the book, and it seems to be, this one. And it seems to be either the name for this hill or just the word for hill. It's not really clear whether it's a proper noun or a common noun. But in a footnote to this section of Appendix F, Tolkien adds that the hobbits seem to have made some attempts to represent shorter murmurs and calls made by the Ents. Alala lala rumba kamanda lindor burame also is not Elvish, and is the only extant and probably very inaccurate attempt to represent a fragment of actual Entish.
Probably. But the linguistic debt to the elves is apparent even in that fragment. On his website, Ardalambian, Helga Fevskanger notes that although we cannot analyze this fragment, it may be noted that the general word forms seem strongly inspired by Quenya.
And Fevskanger also quotes Jim Allen, who wrote an essay in an early linguistic anthology called An Introduction to Elvish, which offered this interesting speculative comment. A speech in Entish, if it could be understood by human ears, which it sounds like it probably couldn't, based on everything we've learned so far, would perhaps be like a very verbose and involved kind of poetry. There would be repetitions upon repetitions upon repetitions, with slight variations. If there was anything that we might call a sentence, it might proceed in a sort of spiral fashion, winding into the main point and then winding out again, touching all along the way on what has already been said and what will be said. That's really cool. And we get that in that representation of that bit of elf speech strung together in Ent fashion, where it's just like, deep valley black, deep valley forested. There's all this repetition. But
And
there
very
is
much
meaning
sort of-
there.
Yeah, there is, winding into that main point. The idea that this is, there's a darkness in The depths of the forest, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I love his rough translation for this name that includes what he does when he's there. You said that we don't have any evidence to say whether it's a proper noun or a common noun. I tend to think that it's a proper noun. It's the name for this hill, because he says specifically, it's this thing where I stand and look out on fine mornings and I do these things, which, I mean, okay, he could do that on other hills, but I love it that it's a story just like everything else, right? The idea that it's a story.
Well, and who knows? Maybe there are no common nouns in Entish. Maybe
that's a very good point, because everything has its
own
individual
name.
story.
Yeah.
Every noun has its story.
Man. Oh, man.
Oh man, I am so I don't know what is wrong with me.
I'm thinking of Eowyn in the movie when she says to Wormtongue, "Your words are poison."
Oh, bad.
Sorry, that was awful.
That
awful.
was really, really terrible.
Yep.
Okay,
all
so
day.
he asks the question, what is Gandalf up to? That's an important question.
Yeah. And he also asks about the Burarum,
Yeah.
about the orcs and young Saruman.
Young Saruman. I love that. You know, I used to watch Big Bang Theory, and now, of course, they have a show that I've not seen, Young Sheldon, right? So I'm kind of thinking like a TV show, spin-off, Young Saruman.
The Young Saruman Chronicles.
Right.
It's the prequel series. Yeah.
Yeah. But of course, Saruman isn't exactly young to anybody else. He came around 2,000 years before.
Right.
So
yeah.
I love how he's young.
Only Treebeard can get away
Only
with calling
Treebeard.
Saruman young.
I should go hang out with Treebeard. Then I'll feel young again.
And it's interesting because that suggests that Treebeard is one of those people who doesn't know where the Astari came from.
That's right.
I mean, and there's no
right.
reason he should know, really. It's not like It's not like Galadriel or Círdan is going to go and say, "Oh, hey, Treebeard, you know these wizards? They're actually Ainur, so they're cool." It's not like that's going to happen.
Though he does talk about the wizards here in a bit. Yeah,
he does, and he knows about them, but he doesn't necessarily
he doesn't know what they are. Yeah, he doesn't know their nature. Right.
Because if he did, he would know that Saruman is actually older than he is himself.
Much older, right?
So anyway, but Mary says, "Look, there's a lot of news, man, but." You know, you just said don't be hasty. I think I'm going to take that advice now. We're not going to tell you anything.
I love that. Now you get the hint. Yeah.
Yeah. But we don't know what you're going to do with us. We don't know what side you're on.
Yeah, that's very important. And then he, at the very end, wait a minute, and did you know Gandalf?
Right.
That's really important. And Treebeard's response is, well, he's the only wizard who cares about trees. Do you know him? I want to note real quickly the tenses, right? Pippin, and did you know Gandalf? Yeah. Yes, we did. He was a great friend. He was our guide. Treebeard.
This is very significant. Yeah.
I do know him. And he's the only wizard that really cares, not cared, about trees.
Yep.
Yeah, very important. And then, of course, shortly thereafter, we get him asking, hey, wait a minute. You were talking about him in the past tense. What's up with that? But
right. And, you know, Pippin says, yes, we knew him. You know, he was a great friend. He was our guide. And then that frees Treebeard up to answer some other questions, doesn't it?
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. It's sort of like dropping the name gives Treebeard,
we're
okay,
cool.
well, if you're cool with Gandalf,
yeah.
then we're good. Yeah.
Right.
You should have said that earlier. Yeah.
Right.
Before I squished you.
Well, I didn't know.
I know. I love the specificity, by the way, and this is not the part that we read, when Treebeard's like, well, I'm not going to do anything with you if what you mean is to you. That is so good. I love that.
That is pretty good. I kind of love we might do some things together. I think that's super cool.
I love that.
There's a hint that, look, you know, we might actually come together on this. That's really cool.
Yeah, I agree. And then we get a mention about sides, and we will read the next bit when he talks about sides. I think that's in a future episode. But
then, yeah, I mean, we alluded to this a moment ago. You know, look, you're the big question here. You're speaking about Gandalf as if he's, you know, in a story that had come to an end. What's up with the past tense? And Pippin says, you know, yes, he's fallen out of the story. Story's still going on, but Gandalf's part in it is over.
And even though we won't read it, Treebeard really doesn't have anything to say to that, does he?
No, I think there's a reason for that.
I don't know what to say.
It's almost like he's about to say something and he stops himself.
Yeah, like maybe I shouldn't be the one who breaks this news.
Right. Yeah.
He
He
knows
knows
really
something.
Interesting.
He knows something that the hobbits don't know.
Something's up. This guy's got something going on. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and pick up there, and we'll do our last little reading for tonight's episode. If you would like to hear more, said Mary, we will tell you, but it will take some time. Wouldn't you like to put us down? Couldn't we sit here together in the sun while it lasts? You must be getting tired of holding us up.
Tired? No, I am not tired. I do not easily get tired, and I do not sit down. I am not very bendable. But there, the sun is going in. Let us leave this... Did you say what you call it?
Hill, suggested Pippin. Shelf, step, suggested Mary. Treebeard repeated the words thoughtfully.
Hill. Yes, that was it. But it is a hasty word for a thing that has stood here ever since this part of the world was shaped. Never mind. Let us leave it and go.
Where shall we go? Asked Mary.
To my home, or one of my homes,
answered Treebeard. Is it far?
I do not know. You might call it far, perhaps. But what does that matter?
Well, you see, we have lost all our belongings, said Mary. We have only a little food.
Oh, you need not trouble about that,
said Treebeard.
I can give you a drink that will keep you green and growing for a long, long while. And if we decide to part company, I can set you down outside my country at any point you choose. Let us go.
There we go. So let us go. Yeah.
Let us go indeed. So going back to the beginning of the passage that you read, Mary offers, hey, look, I could tell you some more, but can you put us down maybe? He's kind of hinting at it, right? He's just like, wouldn't you like to put us down? You must be tired of holding us up.
Yeah.
He doesn't come right out and ask, probably because he doesn't want to anger the giant tree that's holding him.
That is holding them currently? Yeah, I agree.
Right.
So, he says he must be tired of holding them, but of course Treebeard corrects him. No, I don't easily tire, and we'll talk about that more again next week, actually.
And I definitely don't sit.
No.
I don't bend that way, folks.
No, it's not how this works. You might have noticed. Tree? Yeah. So he suggests that they leave the hill, shelf, step. I love that.
Yeah. I think that's why I thought it might be a common noun, because what did you say you call it? Hill, shelf, step. But again, Treebeard's response about it being a hasty word for a thing that has stood here
in this location since this part of the world was shaped.
It makes me feel like Entish probably doesn't even have any common nouns at all.
Just about, or it'd be a very, very small handful of them.
Yeah. And I was, as you were reading, I was looking in Parma El Delambron 17 because I have it.
Of course you were. Of course you were.
Of course I was. And for this word, whatever.
Did you just do?
I stumbled over a la 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 rumba Anna banana.
La 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 whatever. That's just awesome. I love it. That's a yacht. You just yada yada.
I did. Yeah, I did. I totally yada yada Entish. But yeah, so for the translation of a la 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 rumba commanda a lindor burame, Tolkien just puts part of name of rock shelf.
Part of name of rock shelf. Part of name.
Doesn't say it's the actual. He just doesn't say. So who knows?
No, you're right.
Inconclusive, but I think it's very likely that Entish just doesn't use the same word for any two things.
No.
But anyway, so yes, hill seems like a hasty word, but all right, let's go anyway.
Yeah.
Never mind that.
Never mind
let's
that.
Go.
I love it. Yeah.
We're going to go to one of my homes.
One of my homes. I've got money bags.
Rolling in it.
I'm rolling. I got homes all over the place, man.
Right.
So distance doesn't matter, right? Mary's like, well, how far is it? And you're like, what does it matter? You're not walking.
Have you seen my stride, man?
Have you seen how big I am? Distance does not matter. And then, of course, the concern that Mary has is, look, if it takes us a week to get there, we will be dead. We don't have enough food.
Right.
Treebeard says, don't worry about that. I've got a drink that will suffice for your lost food. It will do more than nourish you.
Yeah.
Oh, and it will. We'll talk about that. Yay.
And if we decide to part ways, I can put you down wherever you'd like to be.
Yeah. Free Uber
So,
to any point on the
free
border.
Uber.
Yeah.
Yep.
Pretty good deal. Better Uber than they had in the last chapter. That's for sure.
Very much so.
Yeah.
This is maybe not 4 stars.
Right.
Probably 3.
Yeah. It's a little rough. The ride's not super smooth, I'm sure.
Right.
But, yeah.
It's got free water bottles in the back,
Of course. Yeah. And you know what? The water's pretty darn amazing, it turns out.
Yeah, a little funny tasting, but, it's pretty nourishing.
It's weird. I took the same Uber a few months later, and the next thing I knew, it felt like it had less headroom.
What was up with that?
I don't know what's up with that.
That's great.
All right. Well, folks, it is almost time for us to decide to part company. But first, we will be pulling a question from Bartleman's bag, or maybe 2. And when that's done, the talk continues all night long at the Prancing Pony.
That's right. Our delightful listener community keeps the conversation going in all of our social media spaces. At our common room on Facebook, you'll find comments, questions, corrections, and more on every episode, as well as updates from us throughout the week. Just look for the Prancing Pony Podcast on Facebook.
And be sure to follow the page and join the group that we've recently created. Now,
yes,
the page lets us keep you up to date on the latest PPP happenings, like our digital moot next year, things like that. But the group gives you a great chance to discuss things with your fellow listeners. It's a real common room, and we're so glad we've finally been able to get that up and running.
Absolutely.
Now, we also have some really good discussions going over on Reddit, so don't forget to look for us there at r/PrancingPonyPod.
And don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram, both with the handle @PrancingPonyPod. And if you're enjoying the show, please share us, and please consider giving us a review on Apple Podcasts.
Please do. And if you want exclusive content like postscripts, full bonus episodes, live Discord events with Sean and me, and episodes without the digital ads, then check out patreon.com/prancingponypod, where you can support the show by joining the Fellowship of the Podcast. Now, let's see what messages Bartleman has brought us. Sean.
All right. Well, first up, Meta in Denmark asks, we'll be getting to my favorite characters of all time soon, the Ents. Well, Meta, we have.
That's right. We're here.
Last time I read the book, Meta says, one thing jumped out at me. When Merry and Pippin bow to the Ents, they seem very amused by this weird behavior, not being very bendy themselves. But in Book 6, when the company meets Treebeard again, he actually bows with great reverence to Galadriel and Celeborn. Is this an inconsistency on Tolkien's part? Or is it maybe Treebeard being more worldly than the other Ents, marking his respect by using a mannish or elvish sign of reverence? What do you think?
Well, I think we should probably start by taking a look at some of the relevant quotes first.
Okay.
We had our research assistant, Tanya Plushkova, put these together for us. We already saw in tonight's reading the bit where Treebeard says, I do not sit down. I'm not very bendable. Mm-hmm. Though, to be fair, there are plenty of days when I'm not bendable either. But enough about that. Let's look at a couple of other quotes from this chapter. He put the hobbits down. Before they walked away, they bowed low. This feat seemed to amuse the Ents very much, to judge by the tone of their murmurs and the flicker of their eyes. And then we get, on the right side of the bay, there was a great bed on low legs, not more than a couple of feet high, covered deep in dried grass and bracken. Treebeard lowered himself slowly onto this, with only the slightest sign of bending at his middle, until he lay at full length, with his arms behind his head, looking up at the ceiling. Then we get Bregalad, who was tall and seemed to be one of the younger Ents. He had smooth, shining skin on his arms and legs. His lips were ruddy, and his hair was gray-green. He could bend and sway like a slender tree in the wind. And, of course, Bregalad's other name is Quickbeam, and once we know him as that, we see this, that he stooped and splashed his feet and head with water. Now, those are all from this chapter, and we'll see them, if not read them, over the next month. But, Sean, what about later?
Yeah, we will be reading those pretty soon, but yes, you're right. Much later, in many partings, that's Book 6, Chapter 6, we do see that Treebeard bowed to the Lord and Lady of Lorien. We also see that Quickbeam bowed like a tree bending in the wind when he handed the keys of Orthanc to Aragorn. And finally, the moment that Meta asked about, when Treebeard bowed 3 times slowly and with great reverence to Celeborn and Galadriel. So we actually see both Ents bowing there. So what do we make of this? Well, I guess it's true that Treebeard says that he isn't very bendable, but that appears to only be the case for certain joints or certain parts of the Ent's body. Tanya also found an article by Alison Curley called The Culture of Nature in Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings, and in that, Curley makes a solid point, saying, The Ents proved to be capable of turning the hobbits gently but irresistibly, we talked about that earlier, and handling other objects with great control and care, as well as lowering themselves to the ground by their arms, due to the lack of flexibility at the waist. On the other hand, Ents were capable of hurling and tossing boulders, and the younger Ent Bregalod could stoop and splash his feet and head with water.
Right.
The most logical way to reconcile this discrepancy would be for the Ents to have areas of more bendability, much like our own joints. So that's one explanation. Alan, what do you think?
Well, I can buy that, certainly, but I confess, at least to me, that doesn't entirely answer the question about bowing specifically, just about flexibility and bending. But here's the thing. Even though Treebeard can't bend enough to sit, he, well, like all trees really, can sway and bend even just a little. And that's the thing. The text doesn't tell us how deeply he bowed, just that he bowed 3 times slowly and with great reverence. So even a slight bow would be a tremendous sign of respect, especially from an old Ent like Treebeard. Compare that to a young one like Quickbeam, who we are told is like a slender rowan tree and able to bow and even stoop to splash water on his head.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. I mean, maybe somebody just needs to get the Ents some yoga videos. I mean, they'll probably still get around to watching them and building some flexibility before I do.
Well, sure.
But anyway, well, do we have time for one more?
I think we do, just under the wire here. Samuel in Australia asks a good one. What does Tolkien's use of forests as symbols of fairy tell us about whence that concept came? As Dr. Flieger alluded to in our interview, Tolkien drew inspiration from sources known to him, such as the Arthurian legend, to illustrate this, such as during the Mirkwood stretch in The Hobbit, with the White Hart, the Enchanted River, not to mention the presence of elves. Of course, Tolkien's use of forests is not confined to his mythology. For example, Smith, and the fey nature of forests is pervasive in fantasy writing. Samuel goes on, together with our discussions of Lothlorien's place in the mythology, what can we gather from the professor, his inspiration, and the inspiration for his inspiration regarding forests as thresholds for fairy and fantasy? Why are forests regarded as being so enchanting?
Wow.
Well, that's a mouthful and no mistake. Or to paraphrase Sam, that might need a week's answer or none at all. But can you go ahead and get us started?
I think I can get us started, yeah. So for this one, we knew we were going to want to turn to some familiar experts on Tolkien and fairy. I'm speaking, of course, of Tom Shippey and Verlin Flieger. So we had our research assistant, Thomas Carrott, pull some relevant quotes from a few essays written by each of them.
Yeah.
Now, I want to start for this question with something Dr. Flieger wrote in an essay in her most recent collection, There Would Always Be a Fairy Tale. In that, she argues that Tolkien used forests as his main location for fairy, quote, in part because of their obvious nature as untamed in a landscape otherwise habitable by humanity. Forests are by their nature dark, often impenetrable, and while not necessarily hostile to human beings, wild.
Yeah.
Moreover, as a scholar of Old and Middle English, Tolkien knew perfectly well that the Old English word for mad, wode, which is Middle English wode or wood, denoting an altered state of consciousness, was also the word for a forest or woodland. He made good use of the connection.
Oh, yes, he did. That makes sense. I mean, woods have always been places of mystery. They're filled with darkness. They're difficult, if not impossible, to fully explore and so on. And they're risky places. They're places where we can very easily get lost. And in fact, we quoted Tom Shippey on this very point back in episode 112 when the hobbits first entered the Old Forest back in Book 1. In an article called Trees, Chainsaws, and Visions of Paradise, Shippey says, the literary functions of the wood are then, first of all, to get lost in, and second, to find your way out of. This makes sense literally, for the main thing about a wood is that you can't see very far. In particular, you can't see the sky, and so you readily lose your bearings, as indeed happens to the hobbits as they make their way through the Old Forest. But losing your bearings very easily has allegorical meaning, error, moral as well as physical blindness, a sense of despair. So, forests like fairy are wild, though not inherently hostile, alien places to men. They're dark, mysterious, and dangerous. And that lurking danger, that almost passive danger, is, I think, one of the big reasons why forests are such perfect symbols for fairy.
Yeah, I remember that essay, Trees, Chainsaws, and Visions of Paradise, and I love that quote about something to get lost in and then find your way out of. Makes perfect sense to me, and Flieger agrees with that.
Yeah.
In talking about Smith of Wootton Major, which, if I can give it another little plug here, is my favorite non-legendarium work, Flieger points out how Tolkien began the story as an allegorical response to the, to him, common misconception of the word fairy, correlating the writer who would sweeten and prettify the notion for children to a cook baking an oversweet cake on the assumption that all children liked sugar. She then argued that Tolkien believed true fairy can't be sweetened and prettified, and that's why the scary nature of Tolkien's fairy woods makes so much sense.
Okay, so yeah, it really is about that danger.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's interesting because you'd think that somebody who absolutely loved trees wouldn't want forests made up of those same trees to be dangerous or scary places. But Shippey makes a really good point about that in his essay. He contrasts Sam's sorrow over the loss of the party tree with other trees, as only Shippey can put it, whom he would not wish to meet in a dark alleyway, prominent among them Old Man Willow. But then he draws this really great conclusion. Tolkien loved trees one at a time. But when they got together and formed gangs, so to speak, as in a wood or a forest, then they had to be treated carefully. Forests in Tolkien are not always pleasant places, but they do have a role to play.
I'm just imagining the trees in like a West Side Story.
I know.
Gang
When you're a
thing.
jet, you're a
Yep.
jet. Let's see, I'd have to redo that. When you're a birch from your first cigarette to your last dying day. Yeah.
Oh, that's too brilliant. Yeah, and I do love the way Shippey put that. And it makes sense. Individual trees, for the most part, are one thing, but a gang of trees,
Yeah.
a big group of them, is another thing altogether. And
It's a little scary.
if you don't believe me, just ask the orcs that try to escape Helm's Deep later on in this book.
I'm still trying to find one.
Right, exactly.
Keep looking for a while. So, look, I know we've just scratched the surface on this. This is a big question.
Yeah.
But, I do hope that we've managed to answer your question just a little bit, Samuel. But for more, we would recommend that Shippey essay, which is available online. If you just search for Trees, Chainsaws, and Visions of Paradise, you'll find it. As well as the dueling essays on Smith that he and Dr. Flieger wrote. Allegory versus Bounce should serve you well when searching for that. And, of course, there would always be a fairy tale by Dr. Flieger, which we've
A
always
welcome
highly
addition to any
recommend.
bookshelf. Yeah.
Always. And you can find a link for that in our library. Well, folks, that wraps it up for another episode of the Prancing Pony podcast. But please be sure to join us again next week when Treebeard talks smack about Celeborn.
Oof, that's going to come back. It's
Boy,
gonna
it
come
is.
back to bite him. Did Celeborn really think Treebeard wouldn't hear what he'd said?
Seriously.
Yeah. Well, folks, we want to take a moment to thank some really important people, our patrons at the Kieran's contribution tier. They are DeMay in Alaska, James in Virginia, Tamsin in Minnesota, Chad in Texas, Lance in New Jersey, Paul in Colorado, Jerry in Texas, Bruce in California, Mario in Utah, Seth in Texas, Ella in California, Joseph in Texas, Kathy from North Carolina, Lori from Washington, Josh in Oklahoma, Carlos in California, Brian from the UK, Cameron in Nevada, and Ned from Connecticut.
My
Thank
goodness.
you all so much for your support.
Seriously, thank you very much. But we also want to thank the team that helps make the show better. Those would include our research assistants, Tanya Plushkova and Thomas Karat, along with our barlowman, Becca Davis, producer Jordan Rennells, social media manager Casey Hilsey, event and Patreon community coordinator Katie McKenna, and website guru Phil Dean.
Indeed, this show would not be what it is without our supporters and our teammates, so thank you all so much. And now be sure you don't miss any episodes of the Prancing Pony podcast. Subscribe to the show through Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app.
And one last thing as always, don't forget to send your thoughts, comments, and most of all, your paragraph-long words for Hill to Barlaman at theprancingponypodcast.com.
I can't wait. I can't
That's going to
wait.
be fun. Yeah.
Barlaman is a lot more reliable these days, but we do get a lot of mail. So we'll get to you as soon as we can, and your question or comment may be featured on a future episode.
Now, as always, this has been far too short a time to spend among such excellent and admirable listeners. But until next time.
Farewell, friends.